G'day lads and ladies, my name is Render, and I'm back on the Hypixel server as always, and today we'll be opening some Bed Wars loot chests that I earned during the last 100 stars, while I learn about my life problems. Alright, so this is going to be a tricky one, because I don't really know how to do commentaries for the most part, so I've just gone ahead and written out a script of sorts, and I'm going to record the gameplay and audio separately. Anyway, so I was trying to think of things that I could make from some videos about, and the line from one of Technoblade's videos reminded me. So I thought, hey, there's a constant flow of things that I can complain about at work, why not just chat about those? So to preface this, I'm just going to say that I left this job about 2 months ago. It was probably the best choice I've made in years, and I'm far happier in my new job at Domino's now than I ever was while I was working at Macca's. Also, yeah, we call McDonalds Macca's in Australia, so now you know what I mean when I say that. Right, so I've worked in 3 separate Macca's restaurants, and they've all been different levels of absolutely scuffed, with this latest one probably beating the other 2. The first 2 were pretty clean, had decent staff, and the ice cream machine only broke down once a month or so. Yes, I know, a working ice cream machine? Nani? Yeah, crazy. Anyway, the one I left a few months ago, there was a period of something like 4 weeks straight that we didn't have ice cream, we didn't have frappes, we didn't even have ice for some of that. So the amount of people that either just stopped coming to buy from us, absolutely halved. And most of the people that came in the drive-thru just asked if we had ice cream yet, and when we said no, they just drove straight out again. Which I completely understand, I wouldn't blame them. It was bloody hot during the time that was happening. It was in the middle of summer. Worst timing possible. Anyway, so yeah, this Macca's was the worst out of all of them. I haven't worked in a place ever where I knew as soon as I went in that I had to get another job as soon as possible. And this was on the first day. The way I knew this was the puddles under the sinks. I know, big deal. Puddles under a sink. It happens, you know. Water falls on floor. You know, it's bound to happen, right? No. In Australia, it's actually illegal for there to be perpetual puddles in any food serving facility, as it's possible to get vermin or infestations growing in those puddles. And it just makes it more inviting to rats and cockroaches. Now, I'm no plumber, but thanks to my time in landscaping businesses, I know when there's a dip in the floor that will never not have a puddle. This is just one of a few puddles in the shop, so for it to get past quality control and health inspectors for what has got to be years, the managers had to be making sure that these puddles were kept dry while those people were inspecting the shop. This in turn means that they give more of a damn about staying open than spending money on repairs that will help the customers and keep their employees safe. This also means that they don't care about the customers in the slightest, and they probably won't care about their employees. So yeah, I knew I needed to get a new job, as soon as possible, and I could tell that straight away. I know it's a bit of a stretch, I get it, but sometimes if it's that blatant and the puddles are that big, you can kinda tell that it's not gonna be a good place to work. Trust me, that was only the beginning, it only got worse from there. Next problem I found was only a few minutes later, when I found, as I went into the changing room, I couldn't breathe. Some moron had covered the entire room in spray-on deodorant. Now I have mild to near non-existent asthma, although it used to be full-on asthmatic attack levels, and I actually flatlined on one occasion. True story. I didn't know for sure how often this would happen, but I knew for it to happen once that it was going to happen a lot. And damn, I was right. So, the culprit was this one guy who is seemingly obsessed with Roger Federer. So obsessed, in fact, that every 2.5 hours he would go to the change room and cover himself and, again, everything else in the room with the Roger branded deodorant. This meant that the room was constantly in a state of literal biohazard. I couldn't go in there without having to hold my breath every time he was working. And even when he left the store at the end of his shift, the stench of that deodorant would stick around the room for hours on end. So whenever half of us guys finished our shifts, we'd all have to hold our breaths if we wanted to get changed before leaving. Great fun. Speaking of that guy, he had a really bad attitude problem. Like, he was a total jerk to everyone. Even rude to the customers quite often. And sure, some of them deserved it. There's a lot of Karens where I live, and you know, they're really annoying. But it doesn't help the shop's image to have someone being sarcastic and nasty to some old person who just doesn't understand that they can't have a free large coffee because their husband served in Vietnam for a few weeks before the war finished 40 years ago or something. Like, that doesn't help us, and it doesn't help them. It got to the point with him that on my last shift, I had enough of his rudeness and hostility to everyone that I finally just told him to shut up, mind his own business, and go back to the station where he was supposed to be working that day. And it was so funny. He looked genuinely shocked to find someone standing up to him, and he could only say back to me, "Well, you've got quite the attitude, don't you?" Which I replied to with a quick, "Yeah, I do. Whatever." And he just walked away. So, because of that whole episode, I can honestly think that because this guy is very, very gay, no one has stood up against him in a long time in fear of being called homophobic or something dumb like that. But I just don't care. He can feel whatever he wants, that doesn't affect me. But I'm not going to stand by and let some loser insult me and my friends and then try to take the moral high ground, even if he doesn't deserve it. I was already going to quit before that whole thing happened, but that's what made me sure I had to go, because I just couldn't be bothered dealing with his antics anymore after that shift. It was too much, it was too often, and I had enough. So I was out here. I was out here. I worked there for maybe a total of 6 to 8 months, and that was more than enough for me. I only started working there in the first place because I got transferred from my previous Macca's when I needed to move town. Now, this isn't to say that I never had any good times there. There's a lot of nice customers where I live, even if there's more Karens, and the kids there are really good. The meme culture and the gamer culture in that store is quite strong, I will say. There's a lot of gamers, and I've actually met a few of them in Minecraft, so that's pretty cool. Sadly though, there was much more work to do and loser customers to deal with than memes to laugh at. I'll try to come up with some more memories of the trash moments I had there before they fade completely. It'll become great content, and hopefully I'll be back to making videos nearly soon. I hope you enjoyed this one. See you soon, lads and ladies. Love yous. Bye bye bye.